This is Marketing Uncomplicated. Hello, everybody, and welcome back. Today I have Joe Mittiga, founder of projectsmile and a world author and founder of Avion Energy. We're going to dig into a lot of projectsmile, and he is also an author, and we're going to dig into all the books that he's writing and up-and-coming books that he has on his shelf. Welcome to the show. It's so great to have you. So let's dive in a little bit, Joe. For those who don't know your story, can you take us back to a pivotal moment that shaped the work you're doing today? Loaded question.
Well, it's a great question. I share it all the time because it's really the foundation of everything.
Yes.
You know, I was raised in the church, a church. I was one of these kids. I was rebellious about everything, quite honestly. And, I just couldn't connect to the concept that my church was sharing as far as God was concerned. So I always considered myself, I knew there was a God, but it just didn't have anything to do with me. And I share that because at 26, basically, I made an agreement that said, you know what? I know you exist. You don't bother me. I won't bother you. We're good. Don't strike me down with lightning. And if I go to jail, I won't ask for help. Fast forward, I tried to stop drinking and drugging on my own. And I was one of these. I was in my early 30s. I was one of these that, started drinking the high school years, the college years, never stopped. Well, February the 20th, 1994, 7 days in, I'm sitting in a friend's house, and my compulsions for drink and drugs were so strong. I just stood up, put my hands just like this, and I said, God, if I'm not supposed to drink and drug today, I need your help. I feel a rush of energy come through my body, a tear come down the side of my face, and all compulsions gone. And that's where it started.
Yeah. So that was sort of your segue into projectsmile, correct?
That basically, projectsmile happened because I did a TEDx in South Africa, and all of that. Basically, when I wrote my books, it always just kind of channeled through me. That voice just kind of stopped after those books.
Yeah.
Met my wife, met my kid, had kids. And then back in September, a couple of years ago, the voice came back. I was watching a podcast. Anyways, long story short, I'm kind of one of these guys that tends to jump in, and then I see how warm or cold the water is. I have a man who I meet on LinkedIn who seemed like a really good guy, says, you want to do a TEDx in South Africa? So I took a big gulp. I was like, sure, why not? Didn't know a whole lot about TEDx. Went down there and changed my life. The TEDx was fabulous. The presentation I had a lot of fun with. I'm getting a lot of views now. It's really great. But what happened is I learned for the first time in my life that millions and millions of people don't have water. And my brain exploded. I mean, literally. I meet two small kids. I'm traveling with a gentleman who was literally a global traveler. This man's climbed over 350 mountains around the world. And he was telling me, we're talking about different things, and we're talking about how over 400 million people in Africa don't have water.
Yeah.
It kind of goes in one ear and out the other. I come across these two young kids the day after my TEDx, just sweet as they can be, big smiles on their faces. I asked my friend, I said, what about these kids? He says, oh, no, Joe, I guarantee you they don't have water at home.
Yeah.
Coming back from that flight, I could feel the love of God in these kids' hearts. And I realized that the way that the poorest of the poorest communities are going to change, they have to have access to new information. And that's projectsmile, where knowledge and passion meet together.
Yeah. We have a lot to unpack with projectsmile, but before we get there, and I love what you do because I want to dive in a little more into your mission and vision. But you've also worked with a lot of C-suite leaders, founders, and an entire organization. What's a common thread you see among the highest performing individuals?
That they don't let fear stop them.
Mm-hmm.
We all
which
have
is
fear.
Exactly. But as they say, on the other side of fear is love, right?
Right. And the difference between that C-suite executive or the entrepreneur or the top athlete, I don't care what it is, they all have fear. Some of them are just so big and bold, they don't even know they have fear. They
Yeah.
just bulldoze through. But eventually it stops people. It puts you at a spot to where, you just can't go through that glass ceiling. Numerous six-figure income earners I used to coach. And I
Yeah.
used to charge a very high month or dollar
Retainer.
fee, annual fee,
Yeah.
simply because I didn't want money to be part of the conversation.
Yeah.
And 99% of the time, what was holding them back from going from six figures to seven wasn't work ethic. It was some type of belief in their head
Yeah.
that was based on some type of fear that would hold them back.
Amazing. I love that because I think for a lot of folks that haven't done the internal work, a lot of what we're saying could fall flat. So it really is the concept. Like how would you guide somebody who does feel like there's a stuck. There's something there. There's something that's holding them back, which is stuck, also known as fear, right? And it's the concept of like, where do I begin? Where do I start? I mean, you have people that are on a journey, you have people that are trying to uncover and find, and there's so many different channels to get there, but I think starting is huge, right?
Sure,
So it's
sure,
like, how would you even guide somebody to begin, as simple as beginning?
sure. Well, it's interesting because you talk about my different books, right? I'm writing a book right now that actually I just found out it's going to be published. It's going to be in Hudson bookstores and on Barnes and Noble shelf, called Weak. And that whole book is based around exactly what you're talking about here. My tagline is ask, listen, live. And for the person out there, if you're in some type of entrepreneurial journey, if you're watching a podcast like this, you're already on an internal journey. I mean, you are, because you're searching for something more. And a lot of times, the people that are searching for something more, they don't necessarily know that they're missing or they're not missing, right?
Yeah.
But when that happens, what I tell people all the time is the very first action step to do: get yourself a pad of paper, get yourself a pencil, and ask for strength and courage, because you're going to need it. And then just start listening. And you listen for any voice that has a limiting belief in it. And you start bullet pointing those voices. I use pads and paper. Some people use their computer, they type it out, whatever's comfortable for people. You're not going to necessarily want to do a first step if everything's great, your whole life is wonderful, and you're walking on water, as I always say. You're not. But
Sure.
who knows who does that? I mean, like, nobody. Everybody has a spot somewhere. And the way you get started is, the reason the spot in your external world exists is because there's something in your mind, in your brain, that's holding you back. How do
Yeah.
you identify that? You start bullet pointing. It might look like, I'm not wealthy enough. I'm the wrong color. I'm too smart. I'm too dumb. I'm too something. And those are shame-based voices. The identification process, when we get them out of our head and on the paper, cuts the power of those voices in half.
Yeah.
99% of the time, whatever it is in your external world you're not accomplishing, it's because something in your head that's holding you back.
Yeah. I love that you talk about how the books were channeled through you, because I think that if anybody who's listening who has been an author or, has an idea, it will come through you. And it's like, again, it's like that thought, or thinking about it, it's the thought process that you are guided. If that message has come through, it's going to happen, right?
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about that.
sure. It's so funny you're asking this question. I'm on the phone with my sister yesterday. My niece is this elite athlete, nurse, has a book, has gone through all sorts of physical challenges. And her immediate reply, as her mother encourages her to do a book, she says, "No one wants to read my book." That's it,
Mm,
the first thing.
yeah.
And that's a voice. Put that voice on a piece of paper. So what people don't understand about the book writing process, my first book took me 22 months to write. Um, and it did not just start to flow. It started kind of in an internal battle at first. But what I tell people to do all the time, and again, I'm a pencil writer. I write out
Mm-hmm.
with pen and paper. But what I tell people to do is get manila folders. Like, I've got a manila folder right here. This is one of my folders. A folder just like this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I have an idea, I just write it down. A book title, a thought, a process, an idea, whatever it is. And a lot of people, they get confused because they've got 10,000 thoughts, right? So
Yeah.
I literally, if I took you upstairs in my house here, in my office upstairs, I probably have 25 files that look just like this that have bullet points on each page on the front. So you just start where you go from the dream state, the imagination state, the inspiration state, then to the creation state. Inspiration is when the thoughts are in your head, and it's that thought that just stays with you over and over and over. That's what kind of shifts it from imagination to inspiration. And
Yeah.
those inspired thoughts, when you start writing them down on paper, they go from inspiration to creation.
Yeah.
And I have 4 books up there right now that I could give you the titles for right now that are at different phases of completion because I had the idea, I wrote it down. 3 days later, I had more ideas, I wrote it down. And eventually you write down enough stuff, you've got your outline right there. And once the outline's there, then you kind of fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And if you're somebody out there that doesn't know how to fill in the blanks, well, there is so much support out
Inspiration.
there
Yeah.
that people can help do that.
I love that. I mean, it's just so important because I think at the end of the day, it's really starting and it's working through that. Let's take a little bit and dive into the, inner works meets leadership. You talk a lot about inner mastery. What does that really mean in the context of business and leadership and just really overall life?
I believe that we're all created in the image of a power greater than ourselves. I have my own channel, a YouTube channel, and I just kind of talk on it, different things.
Yeah.
I said one of my videos, a short video. When I first heard that, I said, "How is this possible? Look at this interview right now. I'm a man, she's a woman. We look very different." My brain was saying, created in God's image, physical. It's not.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
divinity in us, right? So when I understood that idea, right, created in the image of something grander than us, then I said to myself, well, I wonder what is that image mirroring? Well, it's not mirroring the Joe that drank every day, that used marijuana every day, that was doing
Yeah.
crazy stuff every day. It mirrors Joe at his best, whatever that means, whatever that looks like for each person, you being the best form of you. Well, I can tell you at 60, I have a lot more wisdom than I did at 20, right? I mean, I
Sure.
just do.
Yeah.
So the
Yeah.
process of enlightenment is figuring out where are you weak and where are you strong? And I'll never forget it. 40 years ago, Brian Tracy, I'm listening to Brian Tracy, one of the original gurus out there. And he said, at which your weakest common attribute lives is the height at which everything else lives. So a leader out there, the person who wants people to follow them or is in charge of empowering people, they're only going to follow you if you're something or someone they want to emulate, truly.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
you're that person doing crazy stuff, you know, being a dictator during the week and crazy stuff on the weekend, no one wants to follow that. And even if
Yeah.
you're the stellar person during the week and then you do crazy stuff on the weekend, no one wants to follow that. They don't want to be
Yeah.
like you. So being the best you ends up being the ultimate goal. Quite honestly, when you are your best you,
Yeah.
there's always more money than month. Life is going to be happy. People are going to like you. And life is just easier. It is.
Yeah. Totally. How do you help leaders reconcile the pressure to perform then with the need to be aligned and authentic? Because, there's a lot of different talks about, how you come in as a leader. Don't go in and try and be best friends with everybody all at once. Maybe set up your goals and your strength in the beginning, and then you can take the friendly route. I think it's, what have you seen to be that through line that really helps support, the best leadership that there can be and fully aligned and authentic?
Yeah, personally, I don't think friendship's part of it. I think respect is all of
Okay.
it. If
Yes.
somebody respects you, then they're going to be
Yes.
your friend. I say to my oldest son, he's 18-year-old elite player. I said, listen to me clearly. I am not your friend. I am your father.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
respect. And I don't expect him to do anything I don't do. So
Yeah.
when you're gaining respect from people, when you have respect, everything else falls in line.
Complete
If you
shift
don't have
change.
respect, you can be as nice as you want to be, and people aren't going to do anything. And the whole idea of respect, the way you live respect, is people are watching. If you're drinking coffee and messing around throughout the day, but you want your employees to work harder, no, that's just, it's not going to happen. So
Yeah.
it's kind of like you lead by example. Now, again, each person has different responsibilities in an organization, right? And I'm not saying that the person who is, quote unquote, the leader of the pack has to do the bulk of the work or has to do anything. They just have to make sure they're doing their job to the best of their ability and then living their life to the best of their ability. And
Yeah.
that's where, when people are truly, when I work with somebody one on one, which I haven't done in a while, I work with groups. I
Yeah.
basically will ask people, okay, where are you strong? Where are you really good? And then where are you weak? And I always go
Yeah.
back to my son because he's an elite athlete. He'll hit a home run, go 400 feet. We celebrate it for about 5 minutes, and then we look at the launch angle, right?
Yeah.
Because if you only do celebration and you don't look at any part of the equation that can be better for the first time, then that
Yeah.
kind of puts a crack in the armor. And that's the same thing with leadership.
Yeah. Very true. Can you share a story where a small internal shift created massive external results for a client or a
Yes,
group?
I've got a great one. I've got a great one.
Amazing.
I was working with a guy, his name is Steve. Now, this dates back a little bit. Absolute top producer. But he wanted to go to seven figures. He's in that
Yeah.
$350,000 a year range, which is a ton. But in his world, it wasn't the money. It was more the sense of respect that he wanted to gain in his industry. And
Yeah.
this is a man who is an absolute plotter. One of these people that, when he prospects, it was a certain number of prospects every day. Well, as he was becoming a leader of a group, he would find that some of his people weren't like him. And I helped him understand. I said, Steve, some people work as plotters, some people work as waves. The plotter every day, 5 days a week, 5 calls, 10, whatever it is, they make
Yeah.
those calls. The wave person is somebody who will prepare Monday and Tuesday, do 30 calls on Wednesday, follow up Thursday, Friday. Well, when he would
Yeah.
see a wave person, he'd call them lazy because he would always say, well, they need to do more. Well, no, Steve,
Yeah.
they're getting the same thing accomplished. They just do it in a different rhythm. And that's, as a
Yeah.
leader, you don't want to be narcissist in the position of everybody's got to do it like you. You want to be open from a position to say, everybody's going to have their own styles. Now, with this particular man, something that literally changed him. And after about 9 months, he said, thanks, Jay, I don't really need you anymore, which is kind of the success of my world. We
Yeah.
were figuring it out. And he would work out every morning. He did calls. He would hire me literally to call him up so he'd have a sense of accountability when he didn't want to make his prospecting calls,
Amazing.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, one morning he calls me up and he's just really tired. And he would find out that there'd be certain days he was just tired and he couldn't figure out. He still worked, but he wasn't near as productive. So we just keep backing up the clock, right? Like, what was he doing that was making these days? And lo and behold, after about 3 weeks of conversation, it was a bowl of ice cream. This is a true story. He's literally eating his ice
The
cream
bowl of ice cream was holding him up.
yes,
Okay. Okay.
because he was eating his ice cream at 10:30 at night. Well, I don't know about
Oof.
you, but what happens when you eat sugar at 10:30 at night? You go like this, right?
Yeah.
So instead of going to sleep at 10:30, those particular nights, he's going to bed at 11:30, 12.
He's pushing off his entire circadian rhythm.
Yes, he
Yeah.
was always waking up at 5 a.m. So we
Yeah.
didn't remove the ice cream. We removed the timing of the ice cream. So instead of having his ice cream at 10:30, he have his ice cream at 7:30.
Yeah.
7:30, do whatever. And literally his ability then to just have a consistent energy level all day long, every day,
Yeah.
increased everything. It was the bowl of ice cream. Changed everything.
Well, I mean, it's not really wild because your productivity and your health and your wellness is also connected to, the age-old saying of you are what you eat,
Yes.
right? So I think it's like we have to look at everything that's all encompassing and how our life is being supported. Or it's like most recently I heard, like, if you snooze, it's like, I mean, we all know this, like it's a detriment. I mean, and it really creates this like lethargic effect, apparently for like 4 hours after you wake up, which drags you.
Yes.
So all of that is like all encompassing together.
Yes. And I think too, people have to make a decision. And some people are perfectly fine already, wherever they are, whatever they're doing. That's great. The challenge is that for the person who used to be fine with their productions when they're 40 and now
Yeah.
they're almost 50, life is changing. I see it all the time. Consciousness as a whole is changing.
Yeah.
We are in an era of time where the awakened person, there's more people awake today than ever before. And I use
Yeah.
it as an example. When I was a kid, positive affirmations, writing your goals, all that 50 years ago, it didn't exist. I mean, it might have in small places, but just that concept alone now, it's mainstream. And
Yeah.
so we're living in an era where people are waking up faster than they've ever woken up before. And that isn't about necessarily becoming one with God and living as Buddha. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that people are realizing that what they used to do in the past
It's
doesn't
not
work
working.
now.
Yeah.
And you have to
Yeah.
be willing to figure it out and willing to change.
Yeah. No, I love that. In your view, what defines a conscious business in today's climate?
A conscious business in today's climate is somebody who is first looking at their self first. And I
Yeah.
say that because you know what? You can only be as successful as your deepest, darkest parts allow you to be successful. My tagline of the listening part is where you listen to the darkest parts of yourself. And where do you
Yeah.
find that? You find it where your action steps in your external world aren't congruent. In other words, and I always go back to alcohol because that was me,
Yeah.
but there's all sorts of stuff out there. And so if you're living the best you can be, and then you expect other people to live the best they can be. And so
Yeah.
very often the only focus is the positive affirmations, my goals, my timing, my whatever. But what we also have to do is have people start writing down the beliefs that every time you say, I'm going to make $100,000 a month, you're going to have 40 beliefs that says, no, you're not. Okay.
Yeah.
So in a conscious environment, like if I'm doing a workshop for a group, right? I love it. $100,000 a month. Fantastic. Now let's listen to 40 different voices that's telling you you're not. Because you can have one voice that says you're going to and 30 voices that say you're not going to. Well, which do you think wins? It's the
Yeah.
30. And, the era of the past, the growth position of the past was, well, if you just say the positive affirmation enough, it
You
counteracts
begin to
this.
believe it.
Well, no,
Yeah.
it doesn't. It just doesn't.
Wow. How do you then help companies move from performance anxiety or burnout to cultures of purpose and power? Because there's so many of that out there, and they say that they're shifting, but are they actually putting in the work is the question.
Yeah, that truly becomes a position of committed. Is it? How committed are you to it? I can
Yeah.
tell you for myself, right? I'm a single dad. I got 2 kids. I run a traditional business. I'm writing books. I'm doing all of this stuff. But then on a weekly basis, Joe has to stop, look himself in the mirror and say, what has Joe done for Joe today? What
Yeah.
have I done to take care of myself? And I've got routines that I go through. I might take a long bath. I might take a walk every day. I do the things on a daily basis that make sure that I'm balanced. And then every
Yeah.
once in a while, I have to just completely unplug for a day or two and take care of myself.
Yeah.
Burnout happens because you're constantly giving, 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 and you're not doing
No.
anything to receive back. And the problem is that especially in marriages or close relationships or whatever it is, the person who's giving, giving, giving and not getting anything back, they think it's the responsibility of their partner to give back to them. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's yours.
Yeah.
It's each person's responsibility to take care of themselves. And that's the same
Absolutely.
thing in a business environment also. You know,
Yeah.
You can create goals, you can create production. There has to be reward though
Yeah.
for the smallest steps. That's another thing I see all the time. Let's say a company's trying to sell $1 million worth of stuff and they hit 917,000. Well, they consider that a failure. And you wonder why
Yeah.
people quit and burn out. So
Yeah.
if you've got $1 million goal, right, there needs to be some type of celebration. And what you would be amazed at is that celebration doesn't always have to be money. It can just be
No.
good job at,
Yeah.
at benchmarks along the way. So
For
then if
sure.
you reach that 978 and you don't make the goal, okay, but you've been celebrated the whole way up. And that system right there, a lot of companies don't have. They have an all or a nothing. And that's an ego position of the past. And that's why people
Yeah.
burn out.
Yeah. The ego position of the past. I like that. I
Yes.
really like that because then that plays a lot into, what role vulnerability plays in leadership today.
Yes.
Do you see a movement with that moving, and how do you help leaders become more comfortable with it?
I see a huge movement of that coming. More and more people are waking up to the idea that as a human being, we have two sides, a male side and a female side. You
Yeah.
have it as a woman, I have it as a man.
Yep.
I will tell
Feminine,
you,
masculine.
I will tell you that, in my opinion, the biggest and truest and most powerful leaders of the future are going to be women first, men second. And I'll tell you why. Because the empowerment of the multidimensional being, right? The male side of humanity is the mental side and the physical side. The
Yeah.
female side of humanity is the emotional side and the spirituality side. And in my path, I didn't even know the female side existed at first. I didn't. For women, in fact, I have a whole presentation on this called The Passion of the Child that I do for women's conferences.
Yeah.
Because women by nature, when you are born, the makeup of your being is to be able to give birth. And from that position of giving birth, you have an innate ability to sense, to feel, to emote. Now, sometimes it's really strong, sometimes it's not. There is a mass percentage of men that when you say, gosh, when you express compassion, they're interpreting it as pity or making fun of. When you express a sense of accomplishment from a loving position, a man feels like that's a weakness. And why is that? Because so many men don't even know the emotional side of themselves exists. Big boys don't cry. That's a real live thing that's just been inbred in men. The other side, when it comes to women, so many women are afraid of abandonment, neglect, being left out if they become too strong because they
Yeah.
lose their power center. They go to their head and then they strive for goals instead of strive for autonomy and empowerment. And,
Yeah.
when you literally look at a whole human being, right? A whole human being is somebody that has the male and female side truly in balance with each other. And from that sense of balance, it would look something like this. This is what happens, that I do it all the time. I'm the type of guy that will get an intuition, a gut
Yeah.
feeling, the emotional part of myself. I kind of ask, a higher power for guidance on it. But then when I'm guided to do it, then my male side kicks in and I set goals, I set actions, and I take action on it.
Yeah.
And literally from that position, the empowered leader, the challenge
Comes
is
through.
a lot of people don't want to feel their feelings, especially men.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when you start empowering this part, there's the fun ones, the glad ones, but there's also the
Yeah.
sad ones, the scared one, and the mad ones in there too.
Yeah. So then how do you approach resistance when working with someone who's at the top but clearly needs to shift something internally?
There's a concept called fearless moral inventory.
Fearless moral inventory.
Fearless moral
Okay.
inventory. And let's say I look at somebody and I say, I'm pretty intuitive these days. They've got 100 things we need to work on, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's not my job to tell him he's got 100 things to work in. And I will tell you, men are a heck of a lot more resistant than most women. Now, I've come across some women that are like,
Yeah.
wow.
No way.
So
Yeah.
what do? I don't necessarily project what I believe. I will ask the person straight up, what do you think is your weakest common attribute? Where do
Yeah.
you want to start? And they're going to pick off the easiest thing first. Why? Because
Yeah.
they're not as afraid to identify the easiest thing as they are things down here.
Yeah.
So now again, if there's no willingness to really look and to move forward, then there's nothing anybody can do if willingness is not there. But you can
Yeah.
have tremendous willingness and tremendous fear at the same time. As long as you have willingness, we can move it through. And how do we get
Yeah.
through that list of 100? I let the person or the group decide which one of the 100 we're going to work on first. And then we
Yeah.
kind of build upon that. We do the
Yeah.
first one, we do the second one, we kind of build on it.
Yeah. So then in turn, what separates those who make massive transformations versus those who stay stuck? Just jumping all in, going for it?
I think some of that answer is more of a spiritual answer than a human answer, quite honestly. I
Yeah.
think there are
Yeah.
people that were born to live on divine paths, and I think there are other people that aren't. I think
Yeah.
there's more people. Anybody watching a show like yours today, you're already on a divine path. Because if you're not
Yeah.
on a divine path, you're not searching for new information, period. So
Yeah.
the majority of people today, not all, but the majority of people today that are pursuing more accomplishment in their external world, the only reason they're pursuing it is because
Yeah.
there's something inside of themselves saying, yes, knocking on the door, right? Well, what I do is I kind of turn that part from knocking on success outside to knocking on success inside. And you can have $1 million, but if you have the voice that says it's not enough, I need to make 2 million. Well, you can have 2 million and never have a sense of grace. You're always going to have a sense of angst. But the part pursuing the millions can also be the same part that comes inside and pursues and listens to the voices of these other limiting beliefs. That's what happened to
Yeah.
me, quite honestly. I've got this
Yeah.
massive personality. 50 days sober, I had some memories of being pretty traumatized as a kid. I had this big personality that just came in, put a protective bubble over myself for the next 7 years of bigness that then gave safety, and I moved forward. I think the other thing and the most important part is this is not designed to do alone. The
Yeah.
individual out there that thinks they're going to do self-discovery by themselves, you're not. You're
Yeah.
just not. It's not designed. Where two or more are gathered, God is there. That's more of a biblical or a spiritual position. But the truth of the matter is, someone else can see in you, which you can't. And that's
Yeah.
what enlightenment is. Enlightenment is about becoming aware of parts of yourself that are currently in the dark. That's all it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
It takes help.
It's
It
like,
takes support to do that.
yeah, it's what I always love to say with anything in life. It takes a village
Yes.
with anything.
Yes.
What are some practices or habits you personally use to stay grounded and clear?
Excuse me.
What are some practices or habits you personally use to stay grounded and clear?
I am in conscious communion with a power greater than myself constantly. I am
Yeah.
always asking, and in my words, dear God, help. Dear God, give me strength and courage. Now,
Yeah.
30 years ago, I couldn't say the word God. I couldn't. So the way I stay connected, if you will, I am consciously asking all the time for support, for guidance, just all the time in a higher sense of self. The way I
Yeah.
stay really grounded is I ask the deeper parts of myself. I'm in internal communion all the time. The book back
Yeah.
here, Your Inner Child, for me, my inner child, the reason, and a lot of people don't understand what the whole inner child thing is. For me, the reason I started it, to be quite honest, it was easier for Joe to be nicer to Joe if I imagined
Yeah.
myself as a little kid.
Yeah.
Imagining myself as that 30-year-old, no, I didn't have one favorable thing to say about myself. So the grounding mechanism from a place of spirituality is I ask for strength and courage. The grounding mechanism from a place of emotion, I go into the deepest, my gut instincts, and I just ask. And that part might share about, it's happy that it's a sunny day, or it's sad that it's Monday, or whatever. And then from a physical perspective, I do the basic stuff. I do the best I can to treat my body as the temple.
Yeah.
I drink a lot of water. My nemesis in life is Frosted Flakes. I mean,
Yeah.
literally, it's one of those things. So I just learned when I go to the grocery store, don't go down that aisle. I can
Yeah.
literally
Yeah.
walk down the alcohol aisle with no problem. It's the
I
Frosted
love
Flakes
that.
aisle.
Frosted Flakes are
Yeah, they
amazing.
are,
For
right?
me, it was the Lucky Charms,
Okay,
but I could get down with Frosted Flakes.
well, I'm a Lucky Charms guy too, right? So,
Yeah.
and I say
Yeah.
that jokingly now. Again, when I was 30, I could eat 3 boxes. Now, if I eat a bowl of Frosted Flakes, it just
Yeah.
is detrimental. It doesn't mean I don't ever eat it, but how do I stay
Yeah.
grounded, right? I find the things in my life that don't work anymore, and then I work to change that.
Yeah.
And I'm on a the conscious perspective that says, how can I be better today? What is it I can do to be better today? And that's from it.
I love it. So let's dive in a little bit more into Project Smile because I know that I don't like to call it a passion project, but I know it's something that you are very, very tied to just based on your trip to Africa
Sure,
and, all that came about. But, let's talk about what you see as the mission and vision for this.
sure. Well, Project Smile happened because the smiles of all these people. And again, I go back to my tagline. It's ask, listen, live.
Yeah.
And the live part is live life for the legacy. And the reason that's so important is because gratitude is an experience that you have inside your heart, your stomach, your belly, your life as you receive things into your world. But gratitude is never a satiated event. There's no end to gratitude. There's no, oh, I'm grateful. There's nothing more. It's an
Yeah.
ongoing cycle. You receive, you're grateful. Well, grace, on the other hand, is the experience you have when you give back. Gratitude is when you receive, grace is when you give, right? Well, for me, Project Smile and a lot of other stuff, but Project Smile now is a hands-on experience. And how it happened, how it all came to me was two things. I'm at the end of my TED. I'm sitting there having some snacks. A gentleman from Tanzania who traveled from Tanzania to South Africa to watch the TEDx came up. He sat next to me. His name is Praise. And Praise is a gentleman. He's a tour guide now. He's in his mid-30s. He was telling me the story about when he grew up in the village he grew up in was literally on the Serengeti was his backyard. And that big rock across the Serengeti they used to play on all the time. It was Mount Kilimanjaro. So
Yeah.
that's where he lived. No shoes, no water, that whole world 20 years ago. And he said, Joe, my whole village thought I was crazy. I said, why is that? Well, because I heard voices. I said, heard voices doing what? The voices, which I would call now a higher power, were guiding him to do signs to gain clients for the tourists that came in. Well, 20 years later, he's living a very normal life, normal in his world, right? And what I realized then is I said, the children of that village, the village is still there now, 2025, no water. Women will walk a mile, a mile and a half a day just to get water. And again, as my brain is exploding, what I realized was the reason that there's not a generational change in villages like that, because the wisdom of the father and the wisdom of the grandfather isn't expanded because knowledge isn't available. Well, the
Yeah.
truth of the matter is, 20 years ago, there was no access. Technology didn't give us access to villages like that. I
Yeah.
said to my friend, I said, they don't have water, but they have cell phones. Yeah, he looks up satellites. So
Yeah.
literally, they can have a cell phone in a village that has no water. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I'm traveling back. I had the whole idea technology is just different today. So what Project Smile is a website, projectsmile.world is a website that's going to be completely free as an educational website for the poorest communities or anybody that wants to get on there to get educational types of information. Everything from we're literally when we're more funded, we're creating an AI generated classroom where kids will be able to go on there, go to the first grade, and AI will be teaching them first grade math, first grade reading, that type of stuff. And
Yeah.
then there's other sections to where it's more crafts. you're 15, you're 16, you're in India. What do I do? How do I make a living? How do I change my world? So we're
Yeah.
going to have, we're going to open it July the 1st. But that particular, there's a whole section to where there's classes, workshops, if you will, online, of course,
Yeah.
teaching people different types of entrepreneurial tasks.
I love
Anything
it.
from becoming a farmer, a farmer to an assistant to whatever it might be. And then the third place is we're having what we call a mindset page where I'm finding these young people around the planet, these 20-something-year-olds, 25-year-olds that just have this passion to give back. So, and in India, I've got two young men that are doing it, and they're going to speak on a probably a bi-monthly basis. They're going to give a message from a 25-year-old in English, but in their language. So I'm going to have people from India, I've got a guy from Bangladesh, I've got some people from Indonesia. So the mindset page, little Susie, who's an orphan in Africa, she'll find that page. She's going to find a mentor she connects with, then she can go right over here and click on the first grade math. So
Wow.
that's the whole
incredible.
idea. Yeah.
That's incredible. I'm so excited for that to just take off and really to support, everyone that needs it in developing countries. So I think that that's wonderful that you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Joe, this has been unbelievable and super rich, and we'll provide all the details below as it relates to your podcast, as it relates to your books, everything that people can find and connect with you. But before we let you go, we like to do a fireside round, which are just quick hitters, whatever comes to mind. I'm just going to shoot them at you, and you respond as it comes.
Sure.
So what's a book that changed how you show up as a leader outside of the books that you've been writing?
There was a book by Les Brown. I don't remember the name, but he said, cemeteries of the world are the richest place on earth because people are born and they die and they never give their wisdom back. I don't remember his name, but it was Les Brown.
That's so interesting that you bring that up, because what I think is really unique about like the American culture that you see more of elsewhere is we don't take enough wisdom from the elders and their life and really to kind of, grow from that point in time versus all of a sudden we meet death when somebody is ill and old and sick. Right. And I think that there's a lot to be taken from, history of people who have experienced and who have been there before. And I think integrating hanging out with older people and folks that, have been there, done that is really key to somebody's life. So thank you for bringing that up. What's a belief you've unlearned in the past decade?
That you can be all you can be. It's a real life thing. Creating it in the image is your divinity, not the human side of yourself. And that there's a God in all of us. Divinity's in all of us. I always knew it, but now I live it. And that's the difference.
Yeah. I love that. Fill in the blank. Great leaders always
grow themselves first.
I like it. What's your favorite way to reset or recharge when things feel off?
Long baths.
Other than your frosty flakes.
Yes. Long baths, long walks.
Yeah. This has been amazing, Joe. And I don't want to let you go without you explaining to us the lovely piece that you have hanging behind you, because I think it's masterpiece. And we talked about it a little bit before, but for those of you watching the YouTube, you'll be able to see it. And for those of you who aren't, we'll give you a little bit of a brief description.
That, if you want me to, I can stand to show scale and size.
Yeah.
That is an 18,000 piece puzzle.
18 guys.
Can't even
wild.
Do it in a string. It's about 3 feet on each side.
Yeah.
The book I wrote, the book I'm writing, one of them, called Unequally Yoked. People just kind of grow down different paths. My past wife and I, who are really good friends today, we just were on different spiritual paths. This is 9 years ago. So in a 4 or 5 year period after that, I just went into sacred silence. And that puzzle is an 18,000 piece puzzle that I did during that period of time, kind of after hours. I'm not a TV watcher. I don't really read much. I don't drink. I don't do those types of things. So I spend a lot of time in silence. So that's puzzle. I don't know how much you can see.
We see it's still going.
Yeah. And there.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
10 foot
Beautiful.
across. It's 7 foot high. And
Yeah.
it was one of those things where I bought it and it took me 4 months to sort it into 5 big piles, the greens, the grays, that type of stuff. It took
Yeah.
me 2.5 months just to do the perimeter. And when
Wow.
I built a big table, I moved it 3 different times. So it's just a representation of the very last characteristic and every presentation with. It's commit to being very good at what you love to do,
Yeah.
and that takes time.
Yeah.
And perseverance is the characteristic behind that trait. You commit to
Yeah.
being very good because you're going to be good at 2 days. You're going to be better at 2 years. You're going to be even better at 5 or 6 or 7 or 10 years. And that puzzle took me 4 years to build. And people say, well, how did you do it? I said, well, I would just start. And then I worked a little bit. I never had a
Yeah.
preconceived notion of how long it was going to take, how many pieces I was going to do. I just knew that I was going to do it until I finished.
Yeah.
4 years later, here it is. Up there
I
at the
love
very
it.
top, you see one of those birds,
Yeah.
those big flamingos. I don't want to get up and point, but it's above the elephant right there. That was the very last piece. Down here behind my book, I don't know if you can see
Yeah.
it. If you see
Yes.
that lizard
Yes.
down there,
Yes.
that piece alone is about this big. That was the
Yeah.
very first section I did.
That you
And then
started
I
building.
built it across.
Wow. How did you actually move it so that you could get it framed?
I moved it into my 2 different times renting houses while I was building my current house.
Yeah.
I built a big table on 3 8 by 3 foot tables. I
Yeah.
had 2 like this and then one this way, and then I put plywood. So the table that I built was
Yeah.
about 7, 8, 9 feet by 14. And then I
Yeah.
did the whole puzzle, and then I chunked it. I can show you
Yeah.
real quick, just so you can see. I chunked it into pieces like that.
Okay.
And
Yeah, that
then,
makes sense. And then moved it.
and then I put paper underneath. I
Yeah.
flipped it over, and then I built it. I built it right on the table, and then I
Oh.
lifted it up there. It took 3 men to get it up on the
So
wall.
cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
Joe, this has been such a fulfilling conversation. I appreciate it. This has been beautiful. And like we said, everything is shared below so that you can learn more about everything that Joe is doing, purchase his books, and stay connected. So again, thank you, Joe. I really appreciate the time that you have spent with us today.